Hey there again, my lovely followers. I just got out of the shower. I just got done uploading another video if you want to go check it out. It is my 2017 reflection. This video is going to be vastly different. It's going to be something that's hard for me to talk about, but it has been almost 6 years, so it has become a little more normal. I wouldn't say that it's easier. I would say that it's more normal for me now. So I got married quite young, and I was completely in love with this person. This person had the same interests as me. This person loved the same music as me, shared the same love of driving and traveling and wanting to move and better ourselves, and we did. Shortly after getting married, we bought our first home, and we both had careers. He was a butcher, and I was a nurse at that time. And we bought our first house, and we were so excited because we had moved across the country on our own. It's a really loaded story, but I'm going to do my best to convey this to you the best I can. If you are a newly widowed person, I just want to tell you that I am very sorry. I want to tell you that I do understand, and I want to tell you that there's going to be people that tell you they understand and they really don't, and it's not what you want to hear. And there's going to be people that are going to tell you, pray about it or ask God or, do all these things, which in some cases can be beneficial, but it's not exactly what you want to hear. All you really want is your husband back. All you really want is to not hurt anymore. It was 2012, was February the 14th. I was at home that day. I had recently had a lot of health issues come up, and I was at home, and we had this plan that we were going to go see this movie called The Vow, which thankfully I've never watched it, never got a chance to watch it, and I guess it's kind of a good thing. But my husband had gone to work that day, just like every other day. And he told me before he left, when I get home, we will go and see The Vow. And I want to take you on a movie date, and left me a really, really nice card. He knew that I never was into movies or anything, but that maybe this movie I would really like, because I like The Notebook, and I'm kind of cheesy like that. So he had decided to take my car that day. His truck was acting weird, and I was like, well, that's okay. I'll just wait here till you get home. And we had this thing from the very beginning, like this understanding that we would always text when we got there and text when we were about to leave, because both of us did not believe in texting and driving. It was like a no zone for us. So he had texted me when he got to work, and he texted me on his lunch break and told me how much he loved me. And around 2, he got off work and said, I'm leaving. And I said, okay. And it was like an immediate thing. Like, he texted me, I texted him right back. And I said, well, I'm making dinner right now. That was the other thing that I included in the text message. And so I had cooked, I was on the phone with my friend Jess, and I was cooking steak and turnips and a couple of his other favorite things for like a really nice little dinner before we left, knowing that he'd be home in an hour. I always remember my late husband saying that he was tired of his commute, that his commute had made him tired on several occasions, but it was never anything serious. So we always had this thing too where I was like, listen, if anything ever happens, if you ever get really, really sleepy, pull over, take a nap. There's all those places to pull over on this big long stretch of road that you go down to get from his job to our house. But never really thought much about it. I mean, I've drove across country several times, and I've been exhausted, and nothing ever happened to me, and it's things that we don't really think of. So about 45 minutes to an hour went by. And I got this really, really weird feeling in the pit of my stomach. So I sent him a text message and he didn't answer it. And then I called him and he didn't answer. So I called him again and he didn't answer. And I was like, this is really weird. This is not like him at all, because we don't text and drive, but if we're gonna, you know, if you call me or I call you and we're driving, we're gonna pick up the phone and put it on speaker. Well, he didn't answer. So I don't know what came over me. I'm a highly intuitive person, and I did like readings for a long time, and I consider myself to be an empath, but I didn't expect the worst at all. So I called the police station. I called the police station and I said, listen, this is the route that my husband takes home, and he's supposed to be home by now, and he's not. And at that point, let me back up. At that point, I had already called his job and spoke to his good friend, Nick. And Nick had said, yeah, you know, he left an hour ago. I mean, everything was fine today. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I guess the reason why I'm not crying right now, guys, is because it's to this day, it still doesn't feel real. But there is hope, because I'm going to tell you something. The first year, I was in shock. So I would cry all the time, but I didn't really know anything around me, and I made bad decisions, and I just was like totally and utterly confused. The second year was really hard, because I realized that it was the truth, and that he wasn't coming back. But about an hour later, after I had been pacing around, calling my parents, you know, I had called my dad and said, please, you know, say a prayer. I feel like something's wrong. I'm not sure what it is, but I just have this really bad feeling. And then I try to justify and think like, okay, maybe he stopped and got roses. Maybe he stopped and got flowers, a card, whatever. Because he was really big on cards, getting me cards. So I try to calm myself down. But then the sheriff showed up. And I didn't recognize that it was a sheriff. And I had been in my robe all day. I hadn't even got ready for our date because I was still cooking dinner. And so I had both of our plates set up on the countertop like I normally do. By the microwave, of course, you know. And his was cut up and mine was cut up and ready to go and ready to eat. And this gold Impala pulled up, and I'm like, this is so weird. We live out in the country. We do live on a highway, but we're way, way back. Like, our driveway was really long. Maybe this person's lost, you know, because it was like a basic car. Like, just a basic regular car. It wasn't a cop car. So I was like, okay. And I had let Cody out because Cody's my dog. Sorry, guys. I was pacing back and forth on the porch, just waiting for him to pull up. And when that door of that car opened, it quickly kind of come to me, but still not like in full view or full understanding, I guess. But the shoes is what really gave it away. He was wearing black patent leather shoes that were extremely shiny. And he had just this really solemn look on his face. And I said, can I help you? And he said, are you the owner of such and such car? And I was like, yes. And he said, can you tell me who was driving your car today? And I said, well, the only person that ever drives my car is my husband. And then it just kind of like hit me then. And I was like, where is my husband? Where is he? I need to find him. And he said, we need to go inside. And I said, no, we need to go find him. You know where he is. You need to tell me. Because as a wife, we know when we've made that commitment exactly what our partner needs at all times. Generally, when they're sick, how are they? How they behave, how they react, those type of things. And as a nurse, I've had people code blue a million times, and I've been able to assist in getting them back, or at least getting their vitals back, at least for a little while. And he just, I don't know how we even got back in the house, because I don't even remember, like, getting back into the house type of thing. He's just looking around very casually at all the pictures on the wall. And I'm going to pause it for just a second. So he's just moseying around the house, looking at all of our, you know, yearly Christmas cards that were magnets on the fridge, and just, you know, asking me questions like, you know, this, that, and the other. And I just kept probing him, you know, tell me, where is my husband? Where is my husband? Where's my husband? Where's my husband? I was freaking out. And he says, ma'am, you need to call somebody to come over here and sit with us. And I said, I'm a big girl. I can handle this. And I remember saying that, like, I'm a big girl. Like, just tell me. Just tell me. It had already been like 2-3 hours, almost 3 hours before I knew anything. And so I quickly ramble off my mom's number, and my mom and dad come over. And that's when I knew that things were really real. Still didn't think that he, like, was passed on, but knew that things were really, really serious. Whatever it was bad. So he broke the news, and he said, ma'am, I'm so sorry to tell you, but your husband is deceased. And I said, what? What do you mean my husband's deceased? I mean, okay, I understand there was a car accident. I understand that my car was involved with the car accident, but what do you mean my husband is dead? What do you mean by that? Where is he? Where is he? You know? And I recently watched this video by the chaplain that actually accompanied the sheriff here recently. Her name is Kate, and she works for the Maine State Wildlife. She's a chaplain. And she made this video about grief and how people just want to care for their loved ones after they're deceased. And people are so shielded because others think that we will be damaged by seeing them or whatever. And I can really understand that, because at that point I didn't care what anything looked like. I just wanted to know that he knew I loved him and that he was okay. Even though he wasn't okay because he had passed on. But in actuality, he was okay because he was in heaven. Brendan was just 26 years old. In fact, it was about 3.5 weeks before his 27th birthday, and I was 27 at that time. Brendan was the most invincible man I've ever known up until that point. Best driver, best listener, just the best person that I never, ever thought anything could ever happen to. That if I needed help or I was in trouble, that he was going to be there for me. So as the night went on, you know, I had to do some things that were not, and I'm trying to be completely open and candid and transparent with you guys, but there's some things I just don't really want to talk about. But as the day went on, I just kept counting the hours. It was really weird. Like, he's been dead for this many hours, this many hours, this many hours. When it had been exactly 12 hours, I texted his phone. At that point, there was no phone because the car, what took so long for them to tell me is that it took him a long time to get his body out of the vehicle. Apparently, he had fallen asleep, according to toxicology, and I know my husband. He never did any drugs or alcohol or anything. We were like simpletons, you know. People you see in church every Sunday, but no evidence of heart attack, stroke, aneurysm, anything like that. So the witness had said, you know, just no brake lights, just went off the road. Hit a big boulder and it was immediate. But I just remember, you know, texting his phone and just saying, this isn't real. I want you to know that I love you. And I know that you're not going to get this, but I love you. And so the whole time that he was at the funeral home, you know, his body, I wondered every day what he looked like next day, and hours, and really eerie feeling to know that he was like 3 miles down the street, but he wasn't alive anymore. And the day came when we had the funeral, and he had a baby blue velvet casket, and I kept thinking, there's no way his body's in there. He was a big man, 6'1", almost 300 pounds. That casket looked too small for me to think that he was actually in there. And it was laden with all these roses. And before, I didn't mind roses. I actually thought that they were pretty. And for the last, up until recently, I've been terrified of roses because they remind me of funeral homes. And my cousin did the eulogy, who is a preacher. And then I went up there for I don't even know how long. And I don't even know how I did it because that morning my mom had to force feed me a banana. And my sister-in-law, or now my sister-in-law, had to put my boots on. I was almost incapable of walking. I was sleeping in the bed with my mom and dad for a few days. I just had no recollection of life and this house. How am I going to pay for this house? And I think it's hard for people to understand, like, you don't just lose your husband, you lose your security, your best friend, your home, your financial freedom, your future, everything when you become a widow or a widower. It's just terrible. And it's crazy because all I could do when I was up there talking is just tell everybody how much he loved them and how happy I was that they were a part of his life and that they cared about him and that he loved them and that he needed them. You know, that Brendan needed validation, and Brendan loved his work family, and Brendan loved his friends so much. And I don't know where I got the courage to do that. And then I just walked over to his casket and kissed it and sat down. And my mom got up and talked, and my mom is now deceased as well, which was a totally random, unexpected event, like in 2015. And she got up and talked, and then a couple other people got up and talked, and then Brendan was cremated. So for a while, I was scared of the ashes. I don't know why. I just was. I couldn't really process it. And, you know, I didn't make the best decisions after he passed away. I didn't know, like, I just wanted my life back. I just wanted to have a husband. I wanted him. I wanted to know what it felt like to be loved and to be a part of a regular functioning marriage and be able to make dinner and do all those things. And February 14th, sorry, this whole video I just messed up. It was the 15th. Sorry, it was not Valentine's Day. I always say the 14th. The last couple of years I've been saying the 14th, and I don't know why, but I just want you guys to know, like, maybe you can relate to this. If you are a young widow watching this, that it's the time of day that they passed away, every day that you think of them. And then it's the day of the week. Then it's the month, like the day of the month, every year. Or sorry, every month. And it never goes away, and nothing ever feels like justice. Nothing ever feels like justice. You can release balloons, you can write them letters, you can do journaling and counseling and church, and it's just like nothing is there. You know? It's terrible. It's a terrible feeling. It's a terrible life. But you know, everything I do now, everything I do is in his memory. I only want to honor him. I only want to love him. I only want to think of him, you know. And it has gotten a little bit more, like I said, it's not easier. It's just more normal. It's more normal to have a husband now on the other side, which I could have never fathomed 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I could never fathom it, you know. But and I dated some people intermediately, you know, afterwards in the last couple of years. But I got remarried, and I felt really guilty for remarrying at first. Like, should I? Is it the right thing? I'm gonna lose my bond with him. You know, all those things that go through your mind when you're a young widow. But I hope that happens for you if that's what you want. And if that's not what you want, then I do understand. I'm so sorry. I've never really shared, like, the story. The things leading up or leading up after. So many things people don't think about, like, you gotta call and tell their work, like, they're not gonna be at work, or, you know, things like that. It's really, really hard. So, if you know somebody that's going through this, I wouldn't say send them this video, but maybe I would say pray for them and just let them be mad. I think my biggest support was my brother. And I'm not good at showing, like, sadness. So I'd get really, 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 really mad. I mean, to the point where it was, like, almost like psychotic. And my brother would just let me scream, let me yell, let me barter with God, let me demean God. I mean, I don't know. But what I do know is I'm happy now. I'm happy. I'm living my life in his memory. Everything I do is for him. Everything I do is for him. And I know that he knows he can look at me and see that I'm doing the right thing, and he's happy for me. I know that he's happy for me. And it's just a feeling you get as time goes on. He's happy for me. Because he didn't, you know, he would have wanted to spend the rest of his life taking care of me. But since he couldn't, he gave me somebody. And I'm forever grateful for that. So maybe this isn't exactly what you were looking for. Maybe you're going through this. Maybe you know somebody that's going through this. But whatever you do, or whatever brought you here to watch this video, thank you. And be there for them. Whatever it is they need, just let them do it. Just let them do it. That's all you can do. Thank you, everybody, for watching this video.